welcome back to another Doctor Who Big Finish audio drama review show, going back to the universe of Unit, the new series, as I take a look at the continuation of stories, as I take a look at the 6th series, Cyber Reality, featuring the Nightmare and Silver, most recent Cybermen, going up against the current Unit team, and then we also have a little bit, and just in case this box set wasn't exciting enough, we have a sprinkling of Derek Jacobi in there as well towards the very end. See, I've been very much excited for this box set. In fact, I can recall saying in the previous review of Unit Encounters, I was worried that that box set was going to be overshadowed because we had classic series Doctor Who meets new series in Unit Assembled, which was a very big box set with the Sea Devils and Silurians. Then we have Unit Encounters, and then we have this one called Cyber Reality, which, as I say, I was rather excited for. Box set is one of those ones that is basically just your blockbuster, massive 4-part adventure. I intended to start this yesterday and listen to one episode because I've been revising, sort of just as a little bit of a treat, and I ended up listening to the whole 4 hours because I was hooked from the very beginning. See, if that doesn't say enough about this box set being quite powerful, then I don't know what does. So as always, in the description below, I will leave the link to go and buy this release from the Big Finish website. It's currently out now for the pre-order price of £23 for the physical CD and £20 for the download. However, after the release date of July 31st, when it goes into national stores like Forbidden Planet and Amazon and so on, it will be going to the normal recommended retail, I do believe, of £35 or something like that. So basically, if you want it, which I definitely recommend doing so, then buy it now because it's cheaper, and you can of course listen to the trailer on the Big Finish website as well as get all the details for each individual story, which this box set, as per usual, is split into the standard 4-story format. However, it's actually sort of one story running all the way through. We do have 2 writers taking control of this series once again, and basically it's one big massive kind of film thing, which is kind of what I like about this series, and something that was sort of taken away from the previous series being Unit Encounters. Instead, we did have 4 one-hour adventures, meaning that it was an experimental box set, but at the same time it missed out on that blockbuster feel, so it's nice to see that they've returned to that for this series. So taking a look at some of the details now on the Big Finish website, the first part of this series is called Game Theory, written by Matt Fitton. Part 2 is called Telepresence, written by Guy Adams. Part 3 is called Silver, written by Guy Adams once again. And then the series finale is Master of Worlds, written by Matt Fitton. And the whole series is directed by Ken Bentley, and as per usual, we do have the executive producers being Jason Haig-Ellery and Nicholas Briggs, along with the script editors also being Guy Adams and Matt Fitton, and the producer is of course David Richardson. So your normal Big Finish regulars returning once again for this box set. As per usual, with only using 2 writers, this box set is incredibly confined. Each story really nicely runs into each other. You get the feeling that this series has been planned from the very sort of early stages, and each writer has decided to go, I'll take on this bit, you do this bit, and we kind of have this really nice flowing story all the way throughout. It is a really nice sort of format, which I do very much enjoy. Maybe not for the new series listener, but that said, at the same time, I think this series has kind of got to the point where you kind of just need to deal with the fact that this series is longer, and I think you need to get used to the 4-hour format, because it's definitely one of which that I recommend getting into, because this series alone definitely has that impact because of the running time. On the casting details, I'm not going to go into every single individual character in big massive amounts of detail because there is quite a few of them. So as per usual, we do have Gemma Redgrave as Kate Stewart, we have Ingrid Oliver as Osgood, James Joyce as Captain Josh Carter, Raymond Tickram as Colonel Shindy, Warren Brown as Sam Bishop, Kerry Fox as Julia Hartley-Price, Lewis Timmo as Lieutenant Commander Parsons, Derek Jacobi as the War Master, and then we also have Nicholas Briggs, of course, as the Cyberman, and other parts have been played by the cast in there as well. So a kind of, sort of, not really as big as the majority of Unit series. Normally we get these minor characters that don't really mean too much. This one's very much confined because we are literally sort of on this boat that is in the middle of sort of out at sea, so you don't really get many people that are the minor roles in this series, which is nice to see, meaning that we can have a lot more focus around our main characters. In talking about the actual Unit team as a whole, I really feel that this box set has actually used the strengths of the different characters incredibly well. I feel that Kate Stewart is this brilliant character that is an incredibly strong female, and you can tell that she's really got to grips with the power of Unit. I do really enjoy her throughout the series. She's kind of not exactly emotionless, but she kind of needs to do what needs to be done. She's one of those people that realises there is going to be consequences of certain actions, but just deals with it anyway. So I do quite like that. It's kind of a Unit character that I expect. Also, Osgood is also very good throughout the series as well. I feel that once again the writers have really used her strengths, because for the majority of the second half of this series, she is technically the enemy, kind of, because the Cybermen kind of cooperate with her and, as I say, use her kind of skills in order to enhance their own plan. And I think that it is an incredibly difficult story for sort of Kate Stewart, because she essentially goes up against Osgood, which is rather interesting at the same time, but makes sense because the more reoccurring unit members as well, the Big Finish, are brought in. James Joyce as Captain Josh Carter. I feel that he didn't really have too much to do in this series. I feel he definitely played more of that captain kind of role. He was a little bit more military based throughout this series, which I kind of liked. I feel that the previous series had, in Unit Encounters, sort of a bit more of a personal part to his life, so I feel that we're nicely balancing that out now to have the personal part in the previous series and a more military based aspect in this series. And then of course Warren Brown as well as Sam Bishop. Once again, we've had him from the very sort of go ahead at the start of the series. I feel that his character is interesting, especially the first story plays to the strengths of his character and shows how he has gone off on his own independent mission, and kind of that has backfired, and that is a very strong story to start the series on. And Roman Tickram is also very good as well as Colonel Shindy. I feel that he's a very sort of interesting, very, once again, stereotypical military-based character, but one of which that I do enjoy anyway. And then, of course, Derek Jacobi as the War Master. Now, I'm going to get onto it straight away because I know that a lot of people probably feel that he's going to be in this box set through every story, and he isn't. I'm going to get that out there straight away, just in case you go into this box set feeling that he's going to be in every story. He's essentially in the final episode of the series, The Master of Worlds, sort of hence the title. But that doesn't mean it's not good. That doesn't mean that sort of they've underused Derek Jacobi in any way, because the wonderful thing about Big Finish is we've had this master that was incredibly underused within the actual TV series itself, and now we've literally gone on to have Gallifrey Time War, an excellent series that I reviewed a few months back, which I definitely recommend checking out that review. And then at the end of last year, we had the wonderful War Master, Only the Good, which, yes, I did put those on my bed to kind of prepare for this review, to kind of show them on camera. But yeah, both of these series have been incredibly high quality, so I was really excited to see him in this one, and just to have him in that one story. He was incredibly effective. I love the relationship that he in fact had between Kate Stewart, considering, of course, that the Master knew the Brigadier. I think that it's very interesting and there's that tension there. But at the same time, the wonderful thing about the War Master, or at least with me, is I can't help but like him. He's one of those characters that is cynical, untrustworthy, literally deadly as well. He's going to kill absolutely anybody within that scene and you don't expect it. But at the same time, I like him because he has sass. He has sort of a quality around him that makes him funny to actually be around. And he's also entertaining as well, and you kind of respect his intelligence, because at the end of the day, he is the bad guy, but you feel that if he wins, it will be done in a way that is intelligent, and so I feel that, yeah, good on him for winning, kind of, because he's put a lot of effort into his plan. Interesting, because you feel like you should hate him, but you don't at the same time. So going into a little bit of a brief summary now for each story to take a look at those episodes in a little bit more detail. The first episode is Game Theory, written by Matt Fitton, and this episode is a really nice opener one. We basically take some of the elements from the previous series about the Auctioneers, which are basically this organisation that gets alien technology. You don't really need to know too much about them, to be honest. I wouldn't really say that you have to listen to Unit Encounters to actually understand what they are. Basically, what I've just said in the past sentence is probably enough context to go on. Organisation that's pretty much like Unit, gets alien technology and develops it for human needs. That's pretty much all you need to know. And this episode is basically, what if Doctor Who does a little bit of a Black Mirror story? You don't really know what is reality. Sam Bishop is thrown into this situation where he is on this sort of boat out at sea, and you think he's in the Bermuda Triangle, and kind of he needs to repeat this certain situation over and over again, and everything doesn't really feel right. And I must admit, throughout this whole story, I was thinking, what the hell is going on? But at the same time, Kate Stewart and Osgood get sent on this sort of mission by, once again, the Auctioneers to kind of get this alien technology, and they need to do this massive run-around chase game, and the Auctioneers are basically showing off how powerful they are, and they need to go around London sort of getting this alien technology essentially before it explodes and kills absolutely everybody, and risk around this story. But at the same time, you don't really know what is real, what is fake, and I really do like that. It's one of those stories that is basically not exactly original. I think that Black Mirror did it quite a lot, especially within its most recent series, where it had that idea of contorting reality and you don't really know what is real and what is fake. And yet this is a really nice one to start on, because you kind of feel like it's separated from the rest of the series. You don't really know where it's going to go. However, by the very end of this story, you realise that the technology that is being used by the Auctioneers in fact develops itself, and it turns out that it may or may not be Cyberman technology, and then the Auctioneers have essentially handed Earth over to the Cybermen. So it is a rather basically convenient story story, I'm not going to say that any part of this plot is in fact completely original. It's not original, it's just logic. It's one of those things that is essentially Doctor Who should have done this so long ago, and it baffles me why it hasn't, because I think that new series Doctor Who has this really unusual feel about it where, yes, it's in 21st century Earth and it is currently being aired on 21st century television. However, it feels aged. It doesn't feel like, say, a Netflix TV stream series. It doesn't have that high quality. It's not even directed, and it doesn't look visually how current 21st century TV looks. It automatically looks dated, and I think that even throughout Series 9 and Series 10, it's only just getting to grips with that, and it's only just starting to actually look like proper modern TV. And I think that even the spin-off Class actually can be credited for it looking more like a 21st century TV show than actual current Doctor Who is. And the same goes for the actual plot, because currently in humanity at the minute we are going through this age of a technological revolution where it's basically 3D reality, 3D gaming, Oculus Rifts, and then even the idea of mobile phones and the amount of sheer power that is on those, the amount of downloads, the amount of updates, and the amount of apps that you can get that can do different things. And a phone that was once just something to contact somebody, you can now check your heart rate on, your BMI, you can have a sat nav, you can go on maps, you can text people, you can play games, you can Snapchat people, you can tweet things, you can go on Facebook. Essentially, we have this massive amount of technology that has been increased so much and so rapidly over the past several years, and basically it's the ideal breeding ground for the Cybermen, especially this most recent Nightmare and Silver version of Cybermen. This idea of upgrading and changing themselves and having these updates to sort of suit the habitat that they're currently invading. So this is basically logic of, let's do a Doctor Who Cyberman story that is an invasion fit for the 21st century. I think that is kind of the main selling point for this box set. It's finally the Cybermen actually using actual technology that's around these days, and it feels right, and it just baffles me why it's took so long to actually get a story like this, because it is effective and it works so bloody well. Second episode, Telepresence, basically gets the virtual reality gaming theme once again, however plummets Osgood, Josh Carter and Colonel Shindy into the actual virtual reality game, which turns out not to be a virtual reality game, but in fact a parallel version of Earth that has been completely destroyed by who guesses what. It is, of course, the Cybermen, and basically everything in London has been destroyed. It's this sort of doomsday, apocalyptic kind of planet, which would have looked visually very stunning within the actual series itself, I must admit. This episode is very interesting because it once again gets that idea of virtual reality gaming, however goes, what if we can put virtual reality and make people see what is currently going on? However, at the same time, what if we get the elements of actual feel and emotions? So say if you are shot within this virtual reality game, you physically feel that within real life. Once again, it's kind of very Black Mirror, but at the same time, I think that Guy Adams has developed it to be a bit more of a Doctor Who story. And yeah, I really respect the writing team, because I feel that they've actually, one, used sheer logic, which is good and relevant for a Cyberman story, and two, that have made such an entertaining listen that is just so obvious to do, but at the same time so rewarding. It actually feels like Doctor Who is finally stepping into its own and kind of catching up with other science fiction related media. This episode introduces the idea of, once again, Cyberman technology, however developed to have cyber animals. So we have cyber pigeons, cyber dogs, and we don't have any cyber horses. I was really annoyed about that, because of course Spare Parts has cyber horses in. I would have loved to see the cyber horses returning, because those are just incredible. And especially in the next story as well, we have the idea of the cyber spiders, I think they're called, and this idea of mobile conversion chambers as well. And yeah, it's basically these new versions of Cybermen, however, you feel that they've really developed, and Big Finish have really thought out what they're doing with them, and they've really got to grips with their technology. And episode 3, called Silver, is basically everything goes wrong and the Cybermen finally invade. This is the main story where you actually see the Cybermen taking control, because within the previous 2 stories, you don't really see the Cybermen whatsoever. They come to the very end of episode 2. So yeah, that is something that may shock a few people, but at the same time, I felt, especially when actually listening to this, I was worried that the pacing was going to be completely wrong. I felt that the first 2 stories took sort of quite a long time to get to grips with what was going on, to sort of establish the plot. However, I feel that it was actually, in the long run, quite effective. I think that bringing the Cybermen into episode 3 and then episode 4 meant that you essentially had half of the series establishing the plot, and then the second half of the series having the rest of the plot and then the conclusion, meaning that everything kind of had that equal running time. So it would have been nice to see more of the Cybermen in there. I must admit, especially within the later half of this series, where we have once again the idea of them essentially using apps in mobile phones, because they take over Osgood's mind and then use her kind of as their scientist, and she basically tells them all of these ways and techniques that they can improve their technology, because naturally, with Osgood being the incredibly knowledgeable person that she is, unhelpfully to Kate Stewart, who's currently trying to defeat the Cybermen in the next room, but yeah, she's just making it incredibly more difficult, and we have this idea of a Cyberman app, or them using this app, that is going to then sort of brainwash the rest of society, and it would have been nice to maybe go into that a little bit more. I think that this series did lack in the idea of the global scale. We did have several references to, we have cyber factories in Paris and sort of different places throughout the world. However, I felt that this episode didn't really show that. It would have been great to have maybe a few glimpses to other places, maybe a few scenes in America where you had, say, the White House being invaded or something like that, which would have been very easy to do, because naturally, with being an audio drama, you don't actually need to go to America. Or maybe seeing sort of, I don't know, Versailles in France being taken over, or whatever the thing is in Russia, the Kremlin being took over by Cybermen or something like that. It's something that I would say that Rise of the Cybermen and Doomsday in Series 2 did a little bit more effectively, because I really felt like the Cybermen were invading on a big scale throughout the story. And yeah, it would have been nice to maybe see them take over a little bit more on that aspect of them taking over society through the media and through mobile phones. It just would have been nice to maybe go into how people got took over and sort of the robot and sort of cybernetic implants that were put on the face, basically bringing in a little bit more spare parts in there. But that said, I think that could have maybe been a whole extra story worth of stuff. So yeah, I guess for me, who's listened to episodes such as Spare Parts, I just expected for it to go into that a little bit more. So that could have been an improvement that took place, however, it didn't. But at the same time, I think that Cold Silver is that really nice base under siege unit story that is them going up against the Cybermen and basically at the same time being absolutely slaughtered. And when you think this series is absolutely epic, as it says on the box, epic 4-part adventure, you think, how can this get any better? At the very end of the story, the TARDIS appears and Derek Jacobi just steps out and goes, oh yeah, I need some parts, I'm just going to interrupt this situation and then run off again back to my war zone. And it turns out that he gets a bit more involved in the story than we first probably assumed. And yeah, that's when we go into the series finale, including the wonderful Derek Jacobi. That's another thing as well, when I was saying about the global scale thing, it would have been nice to maybe bring back Trinity Wells, which I'm sure you're all aware of is basically that American newsreader that we had in Russell T Davies' Doctor Who. I think that it would be so nice to bring back Trinity Wells in Big Finish, and it would make so much sense as well. So yeah, please do that. I'm sure Trinity Wells is still knocking about somewhere in the media, so yeah, go and bring her back, please. That'll make my day. But yeah, the final story, the Master of Worlds sees Derek Jacobi's Master going up against UNIT and kind of forming an alliance to take on the Cybermen, because the Cybermen have basically disrupted his plan to go get some components for his TARDIS and then leave again, and he can go back to sort of spreading chaos throughout the universe in sort of a plot that I believe Big Finish will probably return to at some point in the future. It feels like an open plot end that is sort of potential to go into something else, which I guess I will leave that until whenever Derek Jacobi next shows up, which I'm presuming maybe, I don't in fact know, I think there may be another box set. I feel maybe Bernie Summerfield, that would be nice. I think that with the Unbound Doctor, that would be stunning to have those two sides meeting. Or I know that he's going to be in the River Song series, so I'm finally going to need to cave into that at some point. Because I even didn't do that for the 6th Doctor, because I've not gone into the Diary of River Song yet. I've kind of avoided it because I'm not particularly a big fan of River Song, but that said, she was decent in Doom Coalition. So yeah, it will be interesting to see where they take the plot with Derek Jacobi's Master in the future, because I think that this series definitely delivered potential with that. And there is one moment where the Auctioneers and UNIT confront each other along with Derek Jacobi's Master in this alliance, and yeah, there's this wonderful moment where he just whips out his laser screwdriver and kills somebody, and they're just like, yeah, I'm the Master, and yeah, you're really annoying and you're dead now. And then I'm just going to go and walk off and continue my day and not even care. And he's deadly, and as I already said in this review, I basically really like Derek Jacobi's Master. He's very quickly coming up there as one of my favourite Masters of all time. To be quite honest, I think that all of the Big Finish Masters, being Geoffrey Beevers, Alex McQueen, and Derek Jacobi, those three are probably my favourites, and I'm excited to see what they can do with Michelle Gomez, because I feel that if they do anything that is related to the Derek Jacobi Master and the way that they have adapted his character, then I'd love to see what they can do with Missy. And of course, at the very end of this series, it is no surprise that everything is defeated. The Cybermen are defeated. They go back to their parallel universe where they can rage chaos wherever they want to next. And Derek Jacobi's Master also goes off to his timeline to do whatever he wants to do. And then the unit team are once again left to go and save the universe as per usual. I feel the upcoming series, I don't actually know what the next series is going to be. I don't think they've announced what's happening next, so I'm intrigued to see where it's going or what they're going to do. I have a feeling that we're going to have another Unit Series 2 where we have the Tengabushi. I think that we're going to have another sort of like unique villain that has never been seen in Doctor Who before, maybe in Unit, or maybe they'll continue with this rather big grandiose bringing in different characters to generate more interest for the series or something like that. But yeah, I feel that this series has been an incredibly strong one. I think that looking over my other Unit box sets, I think that this in fact might be my favourite. I don't know though, because it's a recent listen in my head, so I feel that Unit Assembled is quite high up there as well. Unit Silence is a rather nice political one. Unit Encounters is probably a little bit more down there because I feel that it's a little bit weaker than all of the others really, and because of that sort of smaller scale story format. So I think that this may be my favourite box set. I think that will be a good bet to say that in the future I'll probably still have that opinion as well, because this series just had something about it where I finished it feeling I just liked it. I was speechless, which is something I normally have the effect of when finishing Jago and Lightfoot box sets, which probably shows a good quality. And the same with this one as well. I literally needed to sit down for a good half an hour and kind of just reflect over this box set after. And I've still not sort of finished reflecting over this box set. In fact, I want to go over and watch it again soon. So I think that this box set is definitely one that I recommend to the new series audience, especially if you're not used to the 4-hour format. I think that it's time now to cave in and take a look at what this series has to offer, because you don't really need any context of the previous series, which is a really good thing as well. This is essentially a jumping on point, so definitely do that if you haven't already. And if you're a classic fan as well, that I guess sort of wants some justice served or has sort of a little bit of doubt with the current new series Cybermen, then they've finally got a story that they actually deserve and shows their potential of 21st century invasion and using human technology. So yeah, I do recommend this one, but at the same time I feel it could have had a few more elements changed in there, such as the idea of the global invasion plot that could have been added to a little bit more, and maybe just their plot developed a little bit more as well. The idea of this parallel universe, why they're there, what they're doing, sort of the way that they're taking over, why they want to take over, because I do have a little bit of development into that plot. However, I would have liked to see more, and I guess maybe a little bit more development with the sort of more minority unit roles as well. Maybe Colonel Shindy giving a little bit more sort of priority screen time, and maybe Josh Carter as well, because there was a moment in the series where I actually felt like he was going to die. So yeah, if he is going to die in the next series or the series after, I kind of want a little bit more development with him, because I feel that if he was to die, I don't currently have enough emotion for his character to kind of care. So yeah, I do want a bit of development with him in the later series. So thanks for watching this review. If you have any questions about this series, then please do leave them in the description below. I will reply to them at some point in the near future. I guess I'll see you all in another Doctor Who Big Finish review at some point in the near future. I'll see you all in the other Unit 7th series whenever that takes place. It is released in November, which it does in fact feel like quite a long time away, but to be honest, at the rate that this year is going, that will be no time whatsoever. So yeah, I'm very excited to see where this series goes next, and I hope to review more Big Finish box sets in the near future, because I don't think we have anything else from there coming soon apart from Jago and Lightfoot Forever, which I'm excited to see what happens with that, to say the least. Yeah, as I said at the start of this video, I will leave the link in the description below if you would like to find out more details about this release, in case you've been interested by what I say throughout this review. I'll see you all in another Doctor Who review at some point in the near future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.